Hi, and welcome to another in my series of classic electric blues licks, guitar lessons. And in these lessons I try to take famous and influential electric blues guitar players from the 50s and 60s and break down some of the interesting things that they did or do, and some of the really cool ideas that you can take away from their playing, things that I've taken away from their playing. And basically I'm just sharing this stuff with you. This month, and actually these months for January and February 2016, we're going to look at some of the ideas from one of my favorite guitar players, Jimmy Spruill, better known as Wild Jimmy Spruill. And he's a guy that a lot of people probably don't know about, but yet you've heard him. And I first heard Jimmy Spruill playing the solo on the Wilbert Harrison song Kansas City, one of my favorite tunes, and that's one of the songs that inspired me to want to play electric guitar, is when I heard that Wild solo on that song. And Jimmy Spruill was a session man. He played on all kinds of different records by different artists, and ranging from raw blues to like doo-wop and some instrumental stuff, even some jazzy stuff, a lot of pop tunes from the early 60s. If you've ever heard the tune Tossin' and Turnin' by Bobby Lewis, that's Jimmy Spruill playing the really wild guitar fills in the background. And just a few months ago I bought this CD on Amazon. It's called The Wild Jimmy Spruill Story, and this is just awesome. It is loaded with incredible guitar ideas. And I also got some of his stuff on YouTube that's not on here. There's like 50 songs, 61 songs on this CD, and I got it for less than 10 bucks, which was a great deal. And so a lot of the stuff I'm going to teach you here in these lessons, I'm going to do 2 lessons. A lot of the stuff I do in these lessons I take from songs on that CD. I'm going to do 2 lessons for Jimmy Spruill, and I am no expert. And in fact, I've heard that Jimmy Spruill played with his bare fingers and was somehow able to get this incredibly percussive sound just using his fingers with no pick. I don't play like that. I'm going to use a pick. And I have no idea of his technique, never seen him. As far as I know, there's no video of him that exists. I'm still hoping I'll find something one of these days. But some of his ideas I've translated into my own playing, and I'll show you how I do that and how I play it with the pick and not knowing what he did. And the first lesson is going to be on some rhythm ideas. If you listen to Jimmy Spruill playing on all these different recordings, there are some fantastic ideas for playing rhythm guitar. And if you're just starting out playing electric guitar, blues, rhythm and blues, that kind of thing, then there's just tons of ideas to make you a better rhythm guitar player. And then I'll do a second lesson on just a huge variety of licks and single string runs and double stops and other things that I've taken away from his playing. Let's get started, and we're going to start out with a basic rhythm idea, what I call a double stop rhythm. And you hear this in a lot of electric blues, Jimmy Reed songs, Sonny Boy Williams and stuff, but in rhythm and blues, Jimmy Spruill was the king of what I call the double stop shuffle. And there's no better example than the tune Kansas City, which is in the key of C. Now I'm not sure if I'm playing this right, but this is what I'm hearing. So in Kansas City, if you're playing over the 1, which is a C, he does this rhythm like this. Is a typical Jimmy Spruill rhythm pattern. He uses this in several different songs. There's a tune called The Pleasure Is All of Mine. It's I have to look up by another singer named Bobby Long. A lot of the records that Jimmy Spruill plays on are by really obscure blues, R&B singers from the late 50s, early 60s. And so to find his stuff, it's really kind of tough sometimes. You type in Jimmy Spruill, you'll probably get a lot of his instrumentals that he did as a solo artist. To find some of these other things, sometimes you have to search a little bit. But Kansas City was a huge hit in the late 50s. Wilbert Harrison's 1959, I think it was. So all I'm doing here, playing over the first position bar chord and just moving it with the song. When the song goes to the 4, I play over the F. When the song goes to the 5, I play over the G, which is the 5. And he's just doing this double stop. So the first lick is really just a C chord, and I'm using my first two fingers. My first finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, my second finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. And I'm taking my ring finger and flattening it out on the 10th fret of the 2nd and 3rd strings. So it's like two, kind of a choppy feel to it. And to get that choppiness, what I'm doing to try to imitate what I hear Jimmy Spruill doing is I just adjust the pressure by letting up with my left hand and also muting a little bit with my right hand. Now some guys will play that like this, by hammering on and pulling off with that second finger, but to me it just sounds like almost a chord. Twice, two chops. And then he just moves that over the 4 to the F, just playing it right over the F first position bar chord. And here I am doing a little. But really, what I hear is just barely taking that second finger off and bringing it back on. Nothing pronounced, like none of that. Just and almost just letting up on the string rather than taking the finger off. So that's what I call the Kansas City rhythm, or a double stop shuffle rhythm. Now that same idea, with that same finger positions, he uses in several other songs. There's an instrumental tune called Driving Home where he does this, and I'm actually going to play a little bit of this for you here. Hopefully not violating any copyright laws. Just listen to this, you'll hear what I'm talking about. It's an F. There's an example, that same idea, just being played differently. When he does this, he's putting the emphasis, so I think it's starting on the, so if he's playing an F, he's starting on the 3rd fret of the 4th string, which is an F, and then flattening out the ring finger, and then this time he is hammering on. He's got his first finger on the 1st fret, 2nd and 3rd strings, and then hammers on the 2nd finger onto the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and he picks both the 3rd and 2nd strings at the same time. And he winds up back on the F, 4th fret, 3rd fret of the 4th string. And there's probably two guitars on this. It sounds like, you know, you could almost play it with one guitar by doing the shuffle on the bass notes. One guy could do that, but there's probably two guitar players going, and he's just playing that. Now when he goes to the 4, it's a B flat. Just playing the same thing over the 4. Back to the 1. Then when he goes to the 5, just over the C. Just like that. And that little rhythm is one that you hear Jimmy Spruill use in a number of different songs. Now there's another song, where he uses another variation on that. It's called You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone. And I've got that as example number 10 on my tab list. So if you're looking for these, I put the name of the song and the key on there, and I try to write a little note on the tab as to what these examples represent. And in this tune in G, he does this rhythm using that same basic idea, but he throws in something else. So he does this. Let me just play it for you one time. So he's playing that double stop pattern as a rhythm pattern. And it's from a tune called Hard Times. No, I'm sorry, that's from oh, you're going to miss me when I'm gone. And so he's playing this behind the vocal. It's not an instrumental. So here he's starting out in G, playing over the first position bar chord, starting on that G note, 5th fret of the 4th string, and then that, where he's hammering in to this double stop, flattens out his ring finger on the 5th fret, 2nd and 3rd string, and then he's going to slide into this double stop, which is this. You'll hear Jimmy Spruill use that quite a bit. And he's got his second finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, ring finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. And he's sliding one step up, one step up, picking that twice, and then taking it back the other way. What I'm hearing. And then he moves it to the C. And then the D, I don't think he does it for the 5, but you could. And wrap it up. So that's another kind of cool rhythm idea. So when you're playing behind another harmonica player or a vocalist or whatever, you don't always just have to play chords. You can use double stops as a rhythm. And the double stop shuffle, the Kansas City rhythm, the slower version of it, and then this are 3 examples of how Jimmy Spruill uses that idea to play rhythm guitar. Now, a lot of Jimmy Spruill's tunes, whether he's playing behind another vocalist or doing an instrumental, features a second guitar player. And I have no idea who that second guitar player is. Maybe he recorded both parts. I need to read the notes on the CD. I read them once, but I don't remember seeing anything about that, about the personnel on each one of these records. But I'm sure you could track it down. But whoever it is or however he does it, there are a lot of great bass rhythms, ideas for like basically bass lines to be played on the second guitar, which really are neat. And as a player of classic blues and old-time rhythm and blues and even 50s rock and roll, that's the kind of music I really get into. I've learned dozens of these different rhythms. And when I listen to Jimmy Spruill's recordings, I heard a few that I'd never thought of before. So I'm going to show you some of these now. First one is from a tune called Wildcat Tamer, which is a great, kind of almost a rockabilly tune. Jimmy Spruill played on this song by a guy named Tar Heel Slim. And there's another song called Number 9 Train, which is another incredible guitar song. And we'll learn one of the licks or some of the licks from that a little bit later on. But the rhythm, the second guitar on this, it's in the key of B. That's what I hear on the recording, which is a weird key. And so if we make our first position bar chord with my first finger at the 8th fret, 7th fret rather, the rhythm part that's going on behind the tune sounds something like this. Something that the bass would be playing, but you hear the guitar, the second guitar playing that, and then Jimmy Spruill, I assume, over the top of it is playing this little chord type thing over that, and then he goes into the solo, which is kind of neat. So for a bass rhythm, if you've watched some of my other videos, I always show the bass rhythms, because these are things that you could use to play a backing part for a jam session, or to make up a song of your own, or if you want to play this song. And it's really cool when you have 2 guitars working together, a second guitar playing like a bass line or chords, and then the lead guitar playing the fills or something like that. And Jimmy Spruill's playing has the songs that he plays on have tons of ideas for this. So I'm starting on the 7th fret of the 6th string, which is a B, and I'm going to slide from the 9th fret to the 11th fret on the 6th string, to the 9th fret of the 5th string, to the 11th fret, off, back to the 9th, and then back to the 11th. So the whole thing. Goes to the 4, which is an E, he's going to the 7th fret of the 5th string, playing the exact same pattern on the 5th and 4th strings, and back to the 1. When he goes to the 5, he starts here, which is the 9th fret of the 5th string, and he's playing over an F sharp chord. You could play it with the thicker bass, like when you play over the 4, you could play the E here. But if you listen to the recording carefully, he's playing on these strings, at least I think he is. So when he plays the F sharp, he's going to slide to the 11th fret, or the 13th fret of the 5th string. Same pattern that you played over the 4 on the 5th and 4th strings. To the 4. One really cool rhythm pattern. You could move that to any key. So if you're playing a tune in A, playing in G, playing in D, there I am mixing up the bassier notes instead of playing it up here. So that is a rhythm pattern from the tune Wildcat Tamer, which is sung by Tar Heel Slim, but Jimmy Spruill's playing guitar on that. Another idea is from a tune called Kansas City March. And this is a typical Jimmy Spruill instrumental. Let me find this here, and I'll play a little bit. This is a cool instrumental song. It's in the key of D. So on. And you hear the Jimmy Spruill lead stuff in the background, which is just awesome. We'll get to that. We're working toward that. But this bass rhythm, when I started playing it up here, but he actually plays it. Sounds to me like he's playing it here. And he's just walking the bass from the D. The song's in the key of D. He's playing the lead up here in this first position blues box, and then the rhythm. So he's starting here, 5th fret of the 5th string, twice, 4th fret of the 3rd string, 4th string rather, 4th fret of the 4th string, 7th fret of the 4th string, 4th fret of the 3rd string. You're just going to move that to the G, which is the 4. You can do a little doubling on the bass. Like that. I've got it tabbed out. So all we're doing is moving that same pattern to the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. So the G is the 3rd fret of the 6th string. The B is the 2nd fret of the 5th string. The 5th fret of the fifth string. Then there's the second fret of the fourth string. And the 5 is over the A, G, he just keeps that groove going throughout the whole song. And there's another example of one of these bass rhythms that you hear on the playing of Jimmy Spruill, the records he plays on. Another one comes from a tune called Hard Times. This is an instrumental. Let me play this one for you. Key of G. And this one, he's just doubling up the bass. So this is, I kind of showed you this in the previous song, but in the key of G, same pattern. Exact same string. And for the 4, he's just moving everything over to the C, back to the G. Now for the 5, he goes to the D, so he just plays exactly what he did over the 4, starting on the 5th fret of the 5th string, a D. So it's basically a bass line being played on the second guitar, but it lays down just such a cool groove. And he plays the whole thing, pretty much the same thing over and over again. But instead of being repetitious and boring, it just drives, keeps the song driving. That stays the same while Jimmy Spruill and the rest of the band are playing all kinds of other stuff. Here's another example from a tune called Scratchin'. This one is in F sharp. You can hear all these for yourself. Let me find it. Here we go. This is kind of a what did I say groove. Forgot about that part. If you hear the song What I Say by Ray Charles, it's kind of the same bass line. So he's playing in F, and so the whole bass line is just. And he has a stop time and does some other stuff in there. So there's another cool basic rhythm idea. In F, you start on the 1st fret of the 6th string to the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and then 1st fret, 3rd fret on the 4th string. And you mix up the rhythm pattern there. A little hesitation. You can double it up. Something like that to get some variety in there. Then when you move it, you just move everything over, or you could slide up and keep it on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings. And to do that, the 4 chord in F is a B flat. The C, like that. So there's another example of a really solid rhythm line that you can play from a tune called Scratchin'. It's an instrumental song. Here's one from a tune called Sugar Babe. which is one that he did with Buster Brown. Jimmy Spruill played on Fannie Mae, which is Buster Brown's most famous tune, and he played on all his other stuff, and there's some cool guitar there. Here's from Sugar Babe. Key of C. And that's what he's playing. So here's another rhythm. Sorry, I kind of screwed it up at the beginning. I get all these mixed up in my head. Now I got it. So in C, he's starting out over the C, first position bar chord, and he's taking those same positions that we've heard in 3 of the last 4 examples or so, and just coming up with another variation, another way to play it. He does it like this. So he's hitting the C on the 8th fret of the 6th string. Whoops. And then he's doing that little pattern on the 4th string between the 10th fret and the 7th fret. And he just moves it over to the F. Then to the G, F, C. And there's another kind of cool rhythm pattern from the songs of Jimmy Spruill. One last one. I don't want to run this idea into the ground, but this is from a tune called Goodbye Kansas City, which is another cool instrumental. And here's yet another variation on that same basic bass rhythm. It's in the key of C. There's another variation. He's just doing this. So twice on the root, which is a C. And he's going from the 7th fret of the 4th string, 10th fret of the 5th string, 7th fret of the 5th string, back to that. To the 4, which is an F. Just play that starting from the 3rd string. And again, it's just the same pattern over and over again. To the 5, over the G, F, C. And then on top of that, you got the band, just going nuts, and him playing some incredible solo guitar. So when I listen to all these recordings, 60-some recordings by Jimmy Spruill plus a few others, I hear a lot of these bass rhythms laid down by a second guitar player, which to me just creates this really neat sound. If you've watched my lessons on my more traditional electric blues playing, Sonny Boy Williamson's guitars, Little Walter's guitars, Slim Harpo, you hear a lot of this dual guitar stuff, the Jimmy Reed stuff, where you got 3 guitars playing, and that to me it's my favorite thing to listen to hear 2 guitars working together. And the second guitar sometimes is playing something real simple, but yet that really makes the song, creates the groove. Now for some other rhythm examples, and there's some rhythm chords and like chord slides and things that Jimmy Spruill does, and a lot of those I'm just going to deal with the licks. And so I'm going to show you some ideas from what I call 7th chords rhythms, and you can get some really cool rhythms going on with a C7th shape and some bass runs. And these are rhythms that, if you want to play these songs, great, but you could use to get a groove going of your own or your own song. Here's one from a tune called If You Just Would Have Said Goodbye. I don't even know who this is by. Walkin' Willie or something like that. A lot of these singers are really obscure. Let me play the song and I'll show you what's going on. E flat. Now on this tune, it's really jumbled and you can't really hear the guitar. You hear it every now and then. But the idea that I got from listening to this tune is how to make this rhythm. If you're the only guitar player especially, or if you're playing second guitar, you can combine these bass notes with the 7th chord. So this is a C7 shape. I'm just bringing it from up here, or down here, C, 7th, playing it right here. So it's an E flat 7. Again, my ring finger is on the E flat. And when you're in that position, you can do this little walking bass thing. And what I'm doing here is starting from the 4th fret of the 6th string, hammering on the 6th fret, and then going 4th, 6th, on the 5th string, and then 4th fret of the 4th string. And when I go to the 4, I just take the bass to the 4th fret of the 6th string and play this A flat 7th chord. B flat, same thing. Come to the bass note, which is the B flat. And if you listen to the rhythm guitar on this tune, it sounds like he plays that bass line at the beginning, but then leaves that out and just kind of plays some chords. It's a groove going with those 7th chords. But I like that idea of getting that rhythm going like that. And you could make a cool instrumental, with the lead guitar playing over the E flat while this is going on behind it. And that's the kind of thing, when I listen to recordings, I try to get ideas for things that I can play. Not necessarily to play that song, but that's a really cool idea. There's an instrumental tune called Jump for Joy where he does something similar. Let me show you this, and this is another variation. This is a little more complicated. You hear the bass line's a little more complex. He's doing an E flat. And again, he plays that at the beginning of the song, and then as the sax solos and the other instruments, he kind of lays out. But it's a cool idea. And what I'm hearing is something like this. First part, let me play that for you one more time. Whoops, start it over. He's playing this. Playing it real fast. And it's just another variation on that same note pattern that I showed you before. So he's third string. Something like that. I'm not playing that great, but you can do that in that seventh shape, so you can get a rhythm going with the bass strings. You can also throw in this double stop. So over the E flat, out of that C7 shape there, I'm sliding into the 8th fret of the 4th string, and then coming to the 6th fret of the 3rd string, and then sliding back down. So that little double stop is really cool, mixed in with those 7th chords, and that's something you can do out of that C7 position. So you can do the bass notes, or you can do this. You can get a really cool groove going, a little variation on that idea. And again, that's an idea that I got from listening to these Jimmy Spruill songs, and that's from a tune called Jump for Joy. Now there's some other ideas that Jimmy Spruill uses. He does some different songs where he does chord progressions and just plays chords and minor chords and all sorts of stuff. But I think a lot of that is pretty standard. And if you listen to his tunes, there's an incredible variety of rhythm playing. But when I listen to it, I take away these double stops and the different variations with that pattern. I also like the single string, the bass rhythm, and then the 7th chord. To me it sounds a lot like Ike Turner and some of the instrumentals that Ike Turner did with his band. Very similar. In fact, if I could compare Jimmy Spruill with any other electric blues or rhythm and blues guitar player, I'd say he sounds the most similar to Ike Turner. A lot of the wild and crazy fills and runs and cool bass things and rhythm things. So that's my first lesson on the playing of Wild Jimmy Spruill. Now in the next lesson we'll get into some of the licks and the signature style of Jimmy Spruill. Some of his ideas are pretty straightforward, standard electric blues, rhythm and blues stuff, but he had some really unique things that he did and licks that he played, and I'll try to break those down for you. If you have any questions, comments, let me know. I will see you again soon with part 2 of this lesson.